Hey guys, welcome back to episode 4 of the off season. Today we're going to have a look at the most underrated halves of all time. We're going to pick a couple each and take a deep dive into those. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Matty the Waterboy. What's doing, mate?
What's going on, Guru? Just cruising, mate. How are you?
I'm going well, mate. Now, normally we're a pretty talented duo as far as rugby league, but we have got a guest today joining us who quite possibly might be the best middle forward on the panel. Jackson Hastings, welcome on, mate. How are we?
Guru, thanks for having me. I like the intro, mate. I can't wait to put the 13 on this year and take some hit up. So it should be good.
You all know I've been a fan of a ball playing 13 for quite some fucking time.
There'll be a lot of ball playing, no hit up shots.
Good to have one, finally. Mate, before we do kick off, how's the injury going? How are we feeling?
Yeah, good, mate. It's come along really well. I haven't ran yet or anything like that, just sort of waiting to go back on the 14th and work with the physios at the Tigers. They sort of given me a free rein to enjoy my downtime. Obviously, I've trained non-stop since I broke my leg, and obviously the off-season's a little bit there to enjoy yourself, and I haven't been able to do that. So they gave me a few weeks off to go to America and things like that, which I'm grateful for, and I'll start running a couple of weeks after I go back to pre-season, just getting strength in the calf and stuff. But yeah, it's come along good and it'll be sweet for round one.
You got your missus out here now too?
Yeah, it's good, mate. She's always on my back about doing things, getting me out of the house and things like that too. So it's good to have her. It's she keeps me on my toes, keeps me in check, and as I said, keeps me busy. So yeah, good to have her.
It's not what you said before we started recording, but that's fine.
I knew it was
now,
coming.
We're going to go through some of our most underrated halves. Thankfully, we have got one of the best sevens in the competition here to go through them with us. Mate, take us through your very first one. Who was your first pick? A tough little topic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was hard. When you messaged me, I didn't really know which way to go. I've deleted a few off, but my first one I'm going to go with is a Ben Hornby.
Ooh.
I know people say he played fullback, but he won the comp in 2010 as a halfback, and I think his partnership with Jamie Sauer was pretty impressive. But being a Wollongong boy and a local junior, I feel like Ben Hornby's name doesn't get mentioned enough too. So I don't know if any of you boys had him on the list. I doubt you would have, but he's one that I really appreciated watching play with his blue Pomeroys on. So, Benny Hornby's number one for me.
I think for me, when I look back at that, when you look at all the premiership winning halves over the last 20 years, they're probably the one that stands out as far as neither of them were ever internationals. I'm the same. When I think Ben Hornby, I probably don't think straight away halfback. I just think unreal utility player.
Yeah, exactly right.
Could play anywhere, but fuck that 2010 side. It's crazy how you look at those halves, and as I said, none of them are internationals or whatever, but you think they were one of the more dominant halves pairings. Yeah,
well, I think the Dragons became better as soon as he went to 7. Obviously, they got Darius to play 1, but being in and around the Dragons and watching what Benny done was pretty remarkable. For someone that played fullback and didn't do too much kicking, I feel like his kicking game when he went to 7 was natural for him. Tough, good defender, good leader, and he won a comp playing halfback, which is pretty impressive. Not many people do it, so that's why I had him at number 1. I do think he played for Australia. I think he played a couple of games.
I do take it back. He did play one game.
He did, didn't
2006,
he?
yeah.
And obviously he played Origin, but yeah, as you said, a lot of people know him as a fullback or a utility, but won a comp at 7, so he's my number 1.
I'll put this to both of you, and if you've got the answer, don't say a word. He played 273 games. How many do you reckon he played at halfback?
Did you just Google it? You did, eh?
I did, yeah.
I'm gonna say 53.
Oh, you're only 100 off. 162.
I thought it was a trick question.
I didn't expect it to be that high either. 83 at fullback, 162 at halfback, 18 at 5'8".
So that means I'm right. He's a halfback then, true?
Yeah. You've nailed
over 50% is a halfback.
Yeah, I thought it'd be much higher at fullback. That's interesting. Matty, memories of the great Benny Hornby.
All I remember, I remember a lot about him, but he was a durable motherfucker. Part of the furniture at St. George. I think he was there for what? 11, 12,
there, I think.
13 years.
200 and, what did you say, 57 or something like that?
73 games,
273.
Yeah, and I think all of those years, from 2002 to 2012 except one, he played over 20 games each year. Yeah. Started his first major year there, he was off the bench, fullback, halfback, 5'8", and then obviously finished his career as halfback. And now he's part of the staff at the Rabbitohs, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he is, yeah. Wayne took him there, I think. But he's, I get a lot of shit all the time for being slow, which is, I cop it on the chin because it's true. But when I look at some of the great halfbacks, when I was going through the list, I wouldn't exactly call Ben Hornby quick by any stretch of the imagination. No. But when he played fullback or halfback, there was never a time that, obviously, I'd never watched every game, but there was never a time where I thought, he's getting run around because he's too slow, or he couldn't do anything because he's too slow. I just think he's his mind was so fast, and that's what just done the job for him. You know, he was, as you said, tough, consistent, but just really quick between the ears.
It's interesting. He played 3 games for the New South Wales Blues. He played 1 in 2004, 1 in 2006, and 1 in 2008.
All different positions?
Well, he started once. What position do you reckon he started? I'll give you a hint. He started in the game that Sean Timmins kicked the field goal from 40.
So he didn't play. He didn't play.
He didn't play
halfback.
5'8".
Oh,
What do you reckon?
I don't want to say fullback because what year was that?
2004. So we're talking peak mini.
Yeah, right. I'm just going to say fullback anyway.
Yeah, I think it's 4. And I think, talking off the dome, Matty, you might be able to deal. I'm pretty sure this might have been the game that Mini and Mark Gasnier missed out on because they.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And because Mini was back the next. I'm not 100% sure it was that year, but like it's pretty safe to assume Mini was back the next game.
Did Mini miss out because of his back?
Nah, it was an off-field.
There was an off-field
type thing. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Little West Naguama there. So 2006 and 2008, he also played State of Origin. As you said, I think durable's the best way to describe him.
Yeah.
Fuck, he was tough as nails.
Yeah, the blue Pomeroys were the grouse, bro. Like, I know Benny Pomeroy had the skins that everyone talks about, but he had the blue torpedoes, bro. Like, I wore them for West Illawarra in like the under 7s because of Ben Hornby. They were the grouse. Google, bring him up now. You know what I'm talking about, man.
Sweet.
He's one of those guys too. Whenever I think of City Country, he's always one of those guys
exactly
I
right,
picture.
yeah.
He's one of my first picked in City Country every year.
It might be one leg too, by the way. I don't think it was both legs.
All right, I'm having a look.
Obviously won that comp. They went to the World Club Challenge as well, 2011. They beat Wigan in that game. So that St George team, unbelievable.
Oh, they played Wigan, did they?
Yep, beat them 21-5 in that.
Who was
one.
in that Wigan team?
Go through it for you. So for Wigan, jeez, Tompkins at fullback still back then.
That was
Fuck,
prime.
he's been around.
That was prime Tompkins too.
Goulding, Gleeson, Georgie Carmont, one of the
Yeah.
greats. I'm sure we'll talk about him over the next few weeks, Matty.
That's a good team, man.
Amos Roberts, Paul Deacon, Lulawai, Prescott. We've got Hanson, Ryan Hoffman, Sean O'Loughlin.
Mate, that's one of the real good Wigan teams too. That back line, like George Carmont went over there, was unbelievable. I don't know when Sam won his first Man of Steel. It would have been around 10, 11, I'm sure it was. Oh, it might have even been before then. He's played for ages. But that was prime Sam Tompkins where, like, if you go back and watch highlights of him play, he'd catch it on his own try line and he's running the field once a week.
Sam Tompkins, 2012 and 2021.
Yeah, he won it. Yeah, he won it a couple of years ago.
That team was coached by Madge too.
There you go. Proofs in the pudding, the man can coach.
One of the greats.
The man can coach.
Anything else on Benny Hornby before we move on to Jackson's second
Was
one?
it 1 or 2 legs? The blue skins, did you figure it out?
I saw. Yeah, most of the things I'm seeing here is one.
See, that's the grouse.
Trendsetter.
Trendsetter. Yeah. Like Aaron Smith with the one sleeve.
Yeah.
Take us to number 2.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know who to say. Oh, I've got. I'll go Scott Prince.
Nice. I had Princey on my list.
Yeah, I was thinking
I
too.
like it. Yeah.
And the reason I went with Scotty Prince was because, like, I appreciate him because back in the day when I was quote unquote faster, he just done everything at such a quick pace, had unbelievable skill. Like, everyone talks about Benji and obviously how skillful Benji is, which is, like, it's pretty easy to sit back and watch and say that's obvious. But I don't know, Scott Prince was right up there in terms of being able to do stuff on the field that not many could, and come back from a couple of serious broken legs, and he played in an era where there was obviously Thurston and people like that. I feel like he would have played a lot more rep footy, and every club he went to, he sort of made a difference as well. And he was one bloke, that I used to love sitting back on a Friday night when I was a kid before I played on Saturdays, and if the Titans or the Broncos or whoever was playing that he played for were playing, that's a game that I'd chuck on for sure.
I think the most incredible thing about Scott Prince is that he played more than 50 games for every Queensland club. Cowboys,
Oh, he did
Brisbane,
play for the
and
Cavs,
Gold
didn't he?
Coast.
Yeah, right.
Everyone forgets he played for the Cowboys early. He played 53 games for North Queensland across about 3 seasons. And you think about all the broken legs and stuff he had. Like, I remember at the start of his career, it was like, is he durable enough to play first grade?
Because he was small too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was very small. Remember he scored the Cowboys try and then he did
Yes, I do remember. Yeah.
Oh, I think when I think about Princey too, though, is that, and you mentioned it, I think everyone looks at 2005 as Benji Marshall's premiership.
Yeah.
Mate, for me, it's Scott Prince's.
I've got to say it was Benji's because I want to get picked every week this year. So
Smart footy, that's good.
It was all Benji. But in all seriousness, I agree with what you're saying. Like, Benji's got the moment that sort of changed the landscape of the Tigers forever in terms of the premiership in the moment with Paddy Richards. But Scotty Prince's input that whole year, I remember Sheensy talking about it at our presentation night. Scotty Prince got inducted into the Hall of Fame and the highlight reel come on, and I was just sitting there and just like as a footy lover, just watching like the one hand show and the flick pass and the crossfield kicks, like they were both doing it. So it's amazing what they were able to do together as well, because they're both slight, both got injured a lot early in their career, and both carved out these phenomenal careers. So
and got the medal to prove it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
He got the 5.
And he also, like, I think people forget, halfway through the season, he wasn't the captain.
Yeah.
Sheensy made the decision mid-season. Was it Mark O'Neilly took it off? I think he got injured or something. They went with Princey, then he returned, and they went, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to stay with Scott. And I thought he was
tremendous. They went Mark O'Neill up until round 9, and then round 10 from onwards of Scott Prince.
Big call to make.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought Scotty was always captain, but obviously the internet doesn't lie, does it? So
yeah, no, I remember it was a big deal when it happened. Even though, like at that point, obviously the 05 Tigers weren't the 05 Tigers, so it didn't. But I remember thinking, fuck, that's a rough call to take the captaincy off someone. But
I can't really remember. Did they always play that sort of sideline to sideline, sling it, double drops, Toddy Payton playing? Like, did they always play that way, or was there a point in 2005 for that to change? I've never really. Sheensy can talk footy, but I've never sat down with him long enough to talk about that. And obviously I wasn't that old, so I can't really remember the style of play. But I just remember they had small, robust forwards that would come back against the grain and offload and stuff, and they had 2 halves, and obviously Hodjo and Robbie that could just wave the ball around like a wand. So I might actually go back and watch that, because I don't know if they played from sideline to sideline. Because they didn't start the year well, did they? They weren't going very well, I don't think.
They lost 4 in a row from round 6 to round 9. And then, as coincidence says, once Scott Prince becomes captain, they go win-win, loss-loss, win-loss, win-win, 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 loss-loss, and then every win to the grand final.
They had a fair spine. Like, we just named the 4 then.
Yeah. But they were all young then. Yeah. They were all very fucking young. Like, I reckon, how old was Robbie Farah? He would have been 21, 20 maybe?
Was he 20? He had hair then, Robbie, didn't he? Yeah. I better be careful. Be careful, because he'll rip me out of the squad as well.
But yeah, they were all so young at that point in their career. It's crazy when you look back on that premiership. And Matty, have you got their draw up from that season?
Yep.
I believe at the start, there's a 2-week period where they beat Canterbury and the Roosters, isn't there? Out of the fucking blue. And they were the grand finalists from the year before. And
that's when the Roosters just played in 3 grand finals in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you think back to Canterbury and the Roosters then, the 2 biggest fucking forward packs of all time. Yeah. There's a story that Matty Johns tells where he talks that he went to a training session in 2004 and he was standing there with Sheensy just going, what are they doing? I've never seen this before. And Sheensy just sort of said, it's going to be a long process, but we'll get there. And then 05 seemingly, penny just drops. There's one guy you mentioned there was Todd Payton.
Yeah.
So he was at the Roosters 2004.
Yeah.
Destined for England. Tim Sheens went, nah, I can do something with him. Yeah. One of the great ball-playing forwards.
He reminds me a bit of myself, Toddy. One of them really good ball-playing props.
What do you got for us,
So
mate?
round 1, they lost to Para, then they had the bye. Then round 3, beat the Doggies by 1, 37-36.
Princey field goal.
Yeah, and then beat the Roosters next week.
Yeah. Scotty Prince is the grouse, bro. And he still plays touch footy now. Like, if you go on his Instagram, I don't know if it's his Instagram or Queensland Touch, like, he's still got it, man.
Is he big in TRL? I think he plays a lot of TRL as well.
Yeah. Imagine fucking showing up after work to touch and you got to deal with Scott Prince.
And he's still like a grouse sort as well.
Oh, yeah, he always has been, yeah.
Jeez, I'd hate to play touch against him.
I've got to say, Scott Prince, like, that 2005 Tigers team, young altogether, like, just a bunch of throbbers. I know 06 wasn't their best year, but it was a big deal for Scotty Prince to move to the Titans so quickly after they won that comp, and then to be the face of the Titans. Then, you know, the Titans had a bit of early success, not the first, the next couple of years. I think he won Dalian Halfback of the Year in 2010 when they made the prelim. So that was a big ballsy move by Scott Prince to do that.
What year did they go in? 6 the Titans?
7 was their first year.
7.
And he won the comp in 05, 06, played for the Tigers again. They had a pretty shit year, but 2007 went to the Titans.
Expansion thing's interesting because you get, like, obviously Munster just signed at Melbourne, but people must look at that and go, what an opportunity, and the money and being the face of something. But then there's such a big risk as well. So for him to actually do it, and if you look at their history, like, there's no doubt he's a top 3, 5 player at the Titans. I know they haven't been around for a long time, but like, they signed him and Luke Bailey straight off the bat, and those two would still be like right up there of players that they've had.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
anyway.
100%.
Whilst we're dribbling on this topic, best Gold Coast Titans player ever, I would go with Princey.
Yeah.
Who would you go with?
Yeah, I'd go with Scotty Prince, but it'd be hard to argue against. I feel like you're setting me up for
I think a lot of people would say Preston Campbell. Who would you say?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say Preston Campbell.
Yeah,
See, I
I'd
was going
go
to say
Princey.
Scotty. Yeah. My top three, and I don't know if it's because they're OGs and like they haven't been around that long, but I'd go Scotty, Preston, and Luke Bailey. Luke Bailey's in the Waterboy too, so you got to show love, you know.
The old bull.
You got to show love, man.
Yeah, I think people forget the Titans. Like 2010, they fell one game short of a premiership. They were like of a grand final.
They got beat by the Roosters, did they?
They got beat by the Chooks.
At Seabus too, yeah.
Yeah. So they were that team was. I think that they were top 4 2 years in a row. I think 09 and 010. And then of course Princey went back to the Brisbane Broncos back end of his season. Wasn't his absolute greatest footy, obviously, but he was getting on there. But Princey, champion player. Anything, Matty?
Nah, all good. All good for me. Yeah.
All right, your top 2. Your
all right.
number 2.
I'm still not 100% sure because I've got 4 names here, but I'll go.
Were any of them his?
No. I didn't have those 2.
Come on, Matty, far away.
The first one I've got is middle of the 2000s. So when I started watching rugby league, Brett Seymour.
Oh, bro, what a pick!
Yeah. So he started with Brisbane, like killed it as a junior.
Left someone off. Oh no, I'll write it down.
Yeah, we can come back. And was pretty good for the Broncos, but I think he copped a lot of injuries in those few years. I think he got punted from there. His most underrated era, I think, was, for me anyway, was when he was at the Sharks. So he moved to the Sharks in, I think it was 2006, or 2007 maybe. And there was like a 3-way cycle of the 5'8" halfback and, you know, the player that got left out. So they had Adam Dykes, Brett Camorley, and Brett Seymour. And they were like floating around all year. But in that year, whenever he played, like I still remember watching it. Like there was a game against Para where he won the game with a field goal and golden point. Like he was so good that year in like the half a season he played. But then his like the big year was 2008, which was when the Sharks, they came third, but they actually came first like on points. Like they were all on equal wins, but they came third. And then they won the semi and they were in the prelim against Melbourne. And then I think he did his knee or something, not in the game before. I think he did it at training in the lead up, or he did it at home or something, like, which is just so unlucky for Sharks fans. And as soon as that happens, they were completely fucked and got pumped by Melbourne because he was one of their best players that year. After that, it kind of fizzled away a little bit, but that 07-08 kind of period was his most underrated. Also, I don't really remember him at Brisbane as much as I should because I was pretty young around then. But what I do remember, when I was playing rugby league on the PlayStation in like 2002, 2003.
I froth these memories.
Yeah. The Broncos, like, because I was like a kid, I didn't know for the first like week or two how to like change the teams. So I always played with the Broncos because I was first, and like Brett Seymour was their kicker, like to kick off. So that was like, he was one of my most earliest memories of players because he would always kick off when I'm playing Rugby League Live. So that was my memory of Brett Seymour playing for the Bronx. But yeah, as I said, the Sharks, those couple of years at the Sharks, he was fantastic.
Did he play with Michael Witt at the Warriors?
Yeah, he did play
together.
Warriors. Let me have a look for you.
Surely he made someone's list, didn't he?
Michael Witt. He was. I won't give it away. But you just reminded me. I reckon I've got a feeling that you've got the person I just wrote down. But did he? Yeah, I don't know. Did he play with Michael Witt at the Warriors? Because I remember he had so many halves partners, Michael Witt, when he went there. Because I used to play hooker, fullback, 5'8", halfback.
Nah, so Michael Witt was at the Warriors in 7 and 8.
7 and 8. So who did he partner with?
So I'll give you randomly. I've got Grant Ravelli. He was one.
Yeah, Grant Ravelli, yeah.
He was good too.
Yeah, he was good, man.
Another one was Jerome Rapati.
Yeah, centre 5'8".
I'm just clicking on random games.
Yeah, because the Warriors went through a period where before they signed James Maloney, they had just everyone just rotated pretty much, didn't they?
Yep.
Like centre 5'8", and then they just have a one constant at halfback, kind of like when Stacey was there.
Is the guy you're talking about, does he happen to have the same initials as Brett Seymour?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Yeah.
I can't believe
no one said it yet, but
anyway.
anyway.
Do you know
who I don't know.
Okay, he's actually now my number one.
Yeah, I thought he would be. I thought you'd pick him for sure.
I didn't have a list, but he's number one. I can't believe I didn't write him down.
I was just going to say on Brett Seymour, crazy when you look at like sliding doors moments. He plays his last year for the Warriors in 2011, right? He plays round 7 to 11. He wins 5 games on the trot, right? Round 13, this new kid makes his debut, Shaun Johnson. And that essentially closes the door on Brett Seymour. SJ goes on that incredible run. They go all the way to the grand final. One of those ones, it's similar to like how Michael Ennis was at the Broncos in 06. He got injured. Sean Berrigan comes in. No one fucking remembers. Crazy how it plays out sometimes.
Hopefully when you play this, Shaun Johnson's first try in first grade, I think it was that game.
Yeah, I remember
Who did he debut against again?
Was it the Brisbane try?
No. Was it the
Tigers?
Tigers? Debut?
Tigers, yeah.
Tigers with that mad. They had like the flag on their jersey, the Warriors, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Is it he gets on the outside and takes fullback on, scores left corner, pretty sure.
Let me have a look.
You're right, it is the West Tigers.
It's not. I don't know if it's the intercept try or the one where he gets a wide 4 goose step straight through and then takes the fullback on, scores in the left corner. Sure he does.
Now, we did a podcast the other day talking about the best jerseys. We forgot about
That's
that
up
one.
there, man.
That was a cracker.
Oh, yeah.
I reckon if we're going to put teams in order of who do the best jerseys year by year, Warriors are 1. Warriors are number 1.
They're number
either
1.
the best or the worst.
Yeah.
But when they're the best,
When they're the best, they are the best.
I think some of the jerseys they've done over the years, I remember I've played against them a few times, obviously, and like sometimes when they run out in like a traditional kit, like the jersey they wore this year, representing the premiership year, I think it was, when when they played the Roosters,
Yeah,
at the
grand final
SCG,
year,
and they both wore the grand final jerseys from, what year was that?
02.
That's it. Those jerseys were so sexy, man.
I
Even
haven't
the
liked.
Roosters were.
I haven't liked when the Warriors played at Eden Park for the first time a few years ago. They just wore the black, like full black, and it kind of looked like the All Blacks. Like it was like the opposite of a hectic design. But I love that one as well.
Do you remember the night they had I'm going to say 2008-9, they had the blackout night?
Oh, yeah.
Fucking Ruben Wiki returned it and
Sia Soliola.
oh my god,
Yeah.
almost got put in a body bag, the poor bastard.
Yeah, but I've seen Sia do that to so many people after that because obviously he went over to Super League and then when he come back for the Raiders, what a machine!
He returned as a monster.
Yeah, so big, man.
He went to your school, didn't he? He went to Marcelin, I think.
Yeah, Soliola did. Yeah.
Was that try right?
I couldn't find it.
It is his first
But
try.
that's his first try was against the Tigers. Yeah.
I hope I'm right.
I'll back
man.
you. Yeah.
I hope I'm right because he obviously scores so many long ranges, but I remember that one so clearly because I watched Shaun play all the way through the under-20s because I was SG ball year, I think, or maybe Harold Matt's back end, and he used to wear the headgear, and he played in those dominant Warriors sides, and then the Cowboys sides had Jason Taumalolo and stuff like that, and they were the two teams. So obviously Conrad Hurrell, Shaun Johnson, people like that were in there, and then when Shaun made his first grade debut, and they had the fullback was it's gonna annoy me now. Who was
For the Warriors,
he had the tattoos.
Kevin Locke.
No, Kevin Locke wasn't fullback, was he? Or was he that game?
Are you talking about in that game? It was Kevin Locke in that one.
Yeah.
Who else you could be talking about?
Oh,
Locke, Inu,
Nah,
Brown, Mannering.
it'll come to me. It'll come to me.
Come to you. Did you see, by the way, on that, the Warriors have now got a team in the SG ball.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so good, man.
My little brother's playing the SG ball for the Chooks.
Oh, really?
And we're having a look at the team list yesterday, just going, holy fuck.
Yeah.
You're in some curry. It's going to be a sore day for him.
That's so good though in terms of growing the game over there. If we're not going to ever get another team over there, and especially like with so many there's so many talented kids that just sort of get lost in the pathways over there with rugby union and stuff like that. It'd be so good to see them come through and hopefully obviously stay in New Zealand and play for the Warriors as well and build that club up to be what it deserves.
That's the exact thing. If you're a young kid in New Zealand with the All Blacks after you, or there's potential for you to play SG ball, go to Australia, and you also get the opportunity for all the scouts to see you there as well. So it's a big in.
Yeah.
I did not see Brett Seymour coming. I love it now that I've heard it,
so
but I
good.
did not see Brett Seymour coming. Anything else to add, Matty?
No, but my next one flows straight off Brett Seymour. So, as I said, when Brett Seymour missed that prelim, the person that would have gone in the halves was Greg Bird, but he was suspended. So they had to put in someone else, and that person was Blake Green. Now, Blake Green is my next pick. That's that start period of his career. Like, he was kind of like, he went to Para, he was at the Sharks. I think he was at the Dogs maybe for a year, and he kind of just like floated around. But then he went to Super League, and for Wigan, that's when he started just killing. I think he won a grand final, won a Challenge Cup.
Yeah, he got man of the match in the grand final.
Yeah, might have played in the grand final and lost as well. Like, just he was only there for a couple of years and just killed it.
Yeah, I obviously being a lot younger than Greeny, I got to play with him at Manly for a little bit.
Yeah.
Before all the stuff sort of happened, and he I want to say this is the most least disrespectful way to who was coaching, purely because people will take it out of context.
Yeah.
But he ran our attack. Like he's that smart and that gifted at being able to get a message and across to people and being able to take someone under the wing and stuff like that. Like he, obviously Baz was the head coach and he'd go to Greenie and Ches and they would run what we would do. But Greenie was that gifted at actually being able to speak to people and get the message across that, as I said, like with all the respect to Baz, because I'm not trying to be a smart ass, he was that good at it. He eventually just ran our attack. As the year that we got beat by Penrith in the semi when it was a very chirpy game, if you can remember it, Allianz, before they knocked it down.
You would have hated that.
Yeah. We had a few boys in the Manly side that were pretty good.
Yeah.
If you went for the team and had a look at that team, I think you'd picture a few. I wasn't actually in the team. I was like I was 18th or 19th man or something like that. But Greenie's Super League career was unbelievable. He went to Hull KR first, Greenie. He didn't go straight to Wigan. And he played with Michael Dobson at Hull KR, who killed it.
Another underrated one.
Killed it.
He didn't get enough shots in the NRL.
Yeah, he killed it, mate. Like he was really, really good. But like when I was at Wigan, when they talk about overseas signings, they talk about Trent Barrett, they talk about George Carmont, who we just mentioned. They talk about obviously Thomas Lulawai, who's an adopted Englishman deep down because he's been in Wigan for so long. But Blake Green, if you ask most like diehard Wigan fans, they'd probably say that him or Trent are probably the two best halves we've ever had, which is a pretty big call considering how many good halves have played for Wigan. But he was the first guy to sort of go over to England early and make something of him, well, a lot of himself, and come back and obviously play for the Storm and then Manly and then the Warriors, Knights, whatever. But he's someone, when I went over, I actually done my research on what he had done. My management told me well, look at Blake Green, look what he's doing now, blah, blah, blah. Looked at it, and then now when there's certain players that I won't mention purely because out of respect to them that are going over to Super League now that actually reach out to me and ask how I went about it and what I did to be able to not be successful, but there's so many distractions. You don't get as much media, you get a lot of downtime. You can go to another country in literally an hour, if that. So there's a lot of distractions to take away from your actual football aspect of your life. So Greenie nailed it, and I followed his footsteps. And then now there's people, obviously Brodie Croft just won a Man of Steel as well, and Jay Field's killing it over there, Bevan French, people like that too. So the more people that go over early that aren't getting a shot here, the better their career is going to be, especially coming back, I reckon. And you don't necessarily have to come back. I know NRL, we look at NRL as the pinnacle, and it definitely is, and I'm so glad that I'm back here. But there's no harm in playing 400 Super League games either. Like, there's some players that never come over. Sean O'Loughlin's one that you just mentioned that could have been as good as Sam, I reckon. Sam Burgess, that is. Like, he was that good, Sean O'Loughlin. So, yeah.
Can I ask you mentioned there, and I understand why you said what you said about getting, because people will hear you say that about Blake Green running the attack and think, how dare you say that about Trent Barrett? It's not the reality of what you're saying. Do you think halfbacks should have more say in general on attack, though?
It depends how close they are with the coach and how much faith the coach actually has in the halfback. I think I've been in situations where people probably haven't trusted me as much. So obviously, and it depends on your age as well. Like, there are times where you get a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid that's telling 30, 31-year-olds that have played 20 tests for their country or 20 origins what to do. And sometimes you've got to go through that period of actually earning the respect of not only the coach but the playing group. Sometimes you get one, not the other, vice versa, and sometimes you get none, which, I've gone through both sides of it. So, I mean, in terms of older halfbacks that have been there and done it, I'm sure people like Cooper Cronk, for example, he's an easy one to point out. Jonathan Thurston, I'm sure Darren Lockyer had the trust of Wayne and people like that would probably get a heavy say in what the attack is. And I know at the Tigers last year, I know people laugh and say you come last, but Madge put a lot of faith into what people like Adam and Brooksy, myself, thought and gave us a lot of respect in the regards of, all right, how do you want to attack, what suits you, and things like that. So I'm sure clubs are doing it, but the top echelon halves like Thurston and Cronk and Lockyer and Johns and Fittler and all the big names would definitely have a massive say in how they attack for sure.
We have on the Monday show, one of the other co-hosts is Tim Williams. His brother is Sam Williams.
Yeah, right.
Canberra Raiders. And just being a rugby league nerd like I am, whenever I watch Sam Williams, even in reserve grade, just how structured his teams are.
He needs to be a coach, man. He needs to be a 100%.
Coach. And he's not the fastest. He's not he doesn't have a good step. He's like, with all due respect to Sam, He's incredibly average at everything, but between the ears,
So fast.
so hard to match.
Yeah.
So hard to match. And I just think, fuck, there's so many NRL teams that instead of having a 25-year-old who's got a highlights reel, if you put Sam Williams in there, fuck, you'd be so much more successful.
Or even he's another one that went to England, killed it, come back, but he just was so happy to play reserve grade. And then when he got called upon, he'll just go in there and win games. You're not losing anything when he steps in. But he needs to be a coach, or he needs to be an attack coach. He needs to be involved in rugby league. I hope he doesn't get lost, because I used to actually get enjoyment out of watching him play, because, as you said, he's not overly quick. And I'm not going to disrespect him by saying he's not good at anything, because he was great at so many things, great passing game, kicking game, vision. But he would be great for a young kid that had all the flair in the world but didn't have that, game management or kicking game, where he could go, well, mate, you can step and flick and do all this, but if you can't kick into this box 10 out of 10 times and you can't lead the chase, or you can't set up your back rower, then you're not going to have a very long career. So I don't know what he does, obviously, but I hope he's still doing something.
I think he's
in
captain
rugby league.
coaching Queensland next year. So not lost to the game, but I can't believe there wasn't an NRL system that...
He'll fall back in somewhere. They always find their way back in.
For sure. But yeah, he's a cracking example. Another guy we could throw into this underrated chat. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. We've been completely sidetracked. I forgot who we started off. Who are we talking about?
Blake Green.
Blake Green, that's right, yeah. By the way, Blake Green, one of the kit kings of all time, 7 NRL clubs.
That's outstanding. I would love to go through his wardrobe. Yeah, and he used to, quick story before we move on, he used to bring his young fella Boston to training. He will be an NRL player one day, 1,000,000%. He was getting in the ice, but I can't remember how old he was, but he'd bring his lunchbox to training. He'd be drinking water with the boys. He'd be eating lunch with us. He'd be getting in the ice bars. He'd be kicking the ball around. So Boston Green.
Remember the name?
Keep the eyes out
name,
for
by the way.
Yeah, grouse name.
It's a winning name.
It's a grouse name.
He played 181 first grade games. Can you name the 7 clubs?
You said Para, Bulldogs. Is that who you said at the start?
Yep.
Melbourne, Manly, Warriors, Knights, and I'm just going to go out on because he was Western Sydney, I'm going to say Penrith or Sharks.
Sharks.
I knew it.
When you said, he was Western Sydney, I thought, he's fucked here.
Yeah.
Where'd Sharks come from?
Well, because you know where Sharks come from? It just come to me this is how weirdly obsessed I am with footy. I randomly saw a photo. I don't know. It must have been on Instagram not long ago of him actually in the Sharks kit. So
yeah, right.
It sort of come to me. But I only said Penrith because of the Western Sydney thing. But
right. Okay.
I had the Sharks in the back pocket, so I got you as 1-0.
Fuck, I thought you were long odds there. I thought you were gone. Which club do you reckon he played the most games for? There's 2 clubs he played more than 50 games for.
Yeah, Melbourne or Manly. No, it wouldn't be Manly. I'm going to say Melbourne or the Warriors.
Yeah. 55 for the Warriors, 50 for the Melbourne Storm.
Was he the spine at the Warriors with Isaac, Luke, Sean and Roger? Was that their spine?
I believe so.
Surely Isaac didn't play with Roger, did he?
No, wait. Who was the other hooker? No.
Yeah, he did. So it was Roger, Green, Johnson, Isaac, Luke in round 1 of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's up there with
Oh,
all in your peak spines ever. And I know they didn't probably go as well as what they would have liked, obviously, but you put all 4 of them in like Isaac Luke at Souths when they won the comp.
Yep.
Sean before he broke his ankle and snapped his Achilles, which is obviously going to slow a lot of people down. And just Roger whenever with Greeny Smart, that spine is, man.
I tell you what, in that starting pack, they have Adam Blair, Isaiah Papali'i, and Tohu Harris as well.
I've got to apologise. I thought you said Isaac John first. That's what I was freaking out about. I apologise for that.
Ball playing lock.
Yeah.
They've been around for years before you say that.
All right, Matty, anything else to add on the Kit King?
Mate, what can I possibly add after Jackson's spiel then? I'm playing him in
Sorry, he texted me and said, can you go for me?
Love that. Now, Brett Seymour was one of yours.
Yeah.
We're both thinking the same guy with the same initials. Have you worked out who it is?
I've got no idea. I feel like I'm going to kick myself.
On, bro. He's been on Google the whole time.
Yeah.
I've been distracted.
I'm sure the vast majority of you at home will get it. And Matty, can you keep the camera on yourself for when I say it? Because I think you're going to fall off your chair that you can get it. Brent Sherwin, Shifty.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I didn't know whether I swear, so.
Brent Sherwin, similar to Scotty Prince, these sort of guys came along in an era of just unbelievable halfbacks. Some of these guys that come along and they're forced to play against some of the best of all time. Shifty, incredibly unlucky. Didn't play any rep games. Played for City on a couple of times. Another guy, when I think of a City jersey, he comes to mind pretty quickly. Yep. Never played State of Origin, of course. 2004, though, that grand final, he was sensational in it. Willie Mason, he got the Clive that night, but I'll tell you what, I thought Shifty was very close to it.
Especially who he was playing against, playing against some of the best players of all time. And obviously the story goes JT left because he couldn't get a crack because of how good Brent Sherwin was.
Which people now say, oh, that's the dumbest decision ever. It wasn't. He was a gun, Shifty.
I actually can't. I'm actually filthy I didn't have him on my list because when I remember, again, I was only young, but he's one of the guys that on the Friday night or the Saturday night you'd go out and hang. You'd do something. You'd ride the bike in the street with your mates. But when 7:30 come on and the Bulldogs were playing, if Brent Sherwin was playing, you'd sit down and watch it because he just taught you so much as a halfback as a kid because he just could play structure well. But he's called Shifty for a reason. Obviously, the off the cuff stuff. Man, what a player, bro!
I would argue he had the best short kicking game of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon he had more tricks in his bag than 90% of people that have played NRL. And that's a massive call considering how many gifted players have played. But, they don't just hand out nicknames. And he had one of the best as well. Considering how many good halfbacks the Bulldogs have had that have played Origin and won comps, he would have to be in the discussion for most naturally gifted with the football in his hands.
Yeah.
If you go through all the Mortimers and all the rest of them, in terms of having the football in your hands and waving it around and being able to use people like Sonny, Willie Tonga, Rennie Matua, Willie Mason, Marco Mealy, people like this, Matt Utai. I know he had great players around him, but he was making great players look even better. And all those players played rep footy and Brett didn't. So, I mean, that's not a knock on him. That just goes to show that was Braith 5'8"?
Yep.
That's when Braith was unbelievable as well. First burst on the scene. Did he? He was just starting
very early, yeah. And people forget how good Braith was as a kid.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they get into Braith about the Fox stuff and how it all ended for him. But Braith was a freak. He was the start of that real big running 5'8", wasn't he? Him and Freddie were I know people will say don't compare them, but they were similar in terms of stature and how they took the game by the scruff of the neck. Trent Barrett, another one. Those three all reminded me of each other, and people will put them in the pecking order however they want. But in terms of being a big body 5'8" with good right or left foot that took the line on, could kick, played a lot of rep footy. Those three I used to watch closely as well.
And they're two guys, just while we're on it, Trent Barrett, Braith and Astor, who they quite often got the overrated label back into their careers. I think it was because they were always compared to Freddie and because they set such a high standard when they came in.
Yeah, exactly.
Braith, Braith, he debuted, he was playing for the Kangaroos by 03 or 04 or something. He was incredible. But just on Brent Sherwin again, he's one of those guys that if he broke the first tackle and the defensive line was in a little bit of disarray, it was fucking over. Yeah. You were done. Or if the ball bounced and everyone froze for a second, Shifty, I had him on the podcast about 2 years ago. And
did you?
Yeah, mate, one of the best chats.
Yeah, I need to watch it.
Just a real halfback's halfback.
Yeah.
So what we were saying before, not the fastest, not the quickest, all this
So what's he
do
now, did you say?
I can't remember what he was doing 2 years ago. At that point, he was going back to help Canterbury out. He hasn't been there since. Okay. So I'm not sure where all of that is at.
Right.
But I always just remember his kicking game just being unbelievable. There was a game, obviously he played in the early 2000s. They had that rivalry with the Roosters.
Yeah.
That, of course, 2002, the Chooks win the comp. Canterbury lost all their points. 2003, they play in that prelim final that essentially lost the Roosters the grand final. Then 2004, they play in that grand final. But there was a game in 2003 where they played each other in the regular season. And I think it was 22-all, and Braith and Astor's waiting there for the field goal.
Yeah.
Sherwin shows it to him, goes down the short side, and you see Braith, he almost has a fucking fit in the background. And then he finds Matty Utai in the corner. He slams it down. You'd remember off that fucking rugby league game, that Rugby League 1, where there's the footage of Matt Utai celebrating that try. That's that moment. It was an unreal game. It was at the SFS. It was an absolute cracker. Shifty just came along at the wrong time, surrounded by the wrong halfbacks. Tough gig. What do you remember, Matty?
Jacko, you talk about being a kid back then and like doing whatever you do in the day and then going home at 7:30 to watch Brent Sherwin. You're so right. That Roosters team and that Bulldogs team, obviously, that he was part of, and then the Roosters team were just, back then, growing up, an absolute delight to watch. Like, you're right. That 2002, 2004 Bulls, I know they were cheating the cap, but like, ignore that.
Let's forget that.
Just forget about that. They were, like, you've talked about Rugby League Live. The team you play on Rugby League Live as a kid, the team you want to watch on a Friday night as a kid, like, they were one of the best two teams of all time, and it was such a great era.
I always say, like, for me personally, I obviously didn't get to watch the 80s and 90s and whatever, but that was the most purest form of rugby league that I can remember watching or loving or being around. Like, we talk about now how the game's gone away from block plays and set plays, and Joey talks about it all the time, and I think Joey forgets that not everyone's as good as Joey in terms of being able to do things that no one else can do, but he's definitely right in the sense of people like Brent Sherwin, when he get a quick ruck, you'd see a lot of halfbacks, especially my age, that were coming through. We always got taught to obviously set up the person around us, but now the game's sort of going back to where you're seeing, I know you posted something about Isaiah Katoa the other day, the young fella from Penrith that's going to the Dolphins. He's so good at catching the ball off a quick ruck and just going forward and playing what ABC's doing. He's not worried about his back row pushing up. He just takes the game on, and Brent Sherwin and Brafen Astor in that time, as well as obviously Freddie, whenever there was a quick play of the ball, it'd just be over the ad line, left foot, right foot, people getting flat and fast, pushing holes, long balls, chip kicks for the winger. Whereas when I was coming through, people try to coach that out of you. It got all like block plays, past 6 o'clock, turn the ball down. Like, for me, watching kids play now, it doesn't matter how the ball spins, just get the ball from A to B as quick as possible. Or if it's a short pass, just make sure it's soft and easy to catch. If it's a long pass, just get it there, just whip it. Like, we make the game so much harder than what it needs to be. Like, everyone's so worried about how it looks. Just do the fundamentals good, and then if you need to throw the ball 15 metres, don't worry about your want, just get the ball there. That's what I'd say. If I was coaching kids now, I'd go back and I'd watch Brent Sherwin play. I'd go back and watch Scott Prince play, because that was the purest form of watching rugby league was for me anyway. And they sort of like, I reckon they've inspired kids. Like, you watch Sam Walker play now, right? Say what you want about Sam's defence, and it's improved out of sight. Oh, we've got to give him a rap. But say what you want about that side of the ball. But in terms of playing pure rugby league, you can tell that he's got brought up just like, righto, mate, the overlap's out there. Don't give it to the back row because he probably can't pass. So you just throw it above his head, above the centre's head, and just hit the winger. Just keep doing it and just keep doing it. And, I mean, to his credit, no one in the NRL can stop it when he gets it right now. So I think that's really coming back into the game. And I know everyone talks about quick halfbacks, and obviously they're good at exploiting the rucks and stuff, but you still need to be, like what you said, quick between the ears and know what you're doing first and foremost.
I think it's something that I've really noticed in Nath Cleary's game improve over the last few years, and this is another thing Sherwin was the king of, his tempo with his running.
Oh, yeah.
How he'd slow it. And if you go back and you watch that try in the 2004 grand final where he shows it under to Sonny, I think, and then he gives it to Haslam.
Decent decoy, Sonny, you reckon?
Not bad. But you see when Shifty slows up, he holds Brad Fittler up for just a second too long, and it just creates that try for Hazem El Masri. Cracking player, Shell. And the other thing I loved about him, and you do it as well, and I'd say it whether you were sitting here or not, and I'll hand over to you too. Shifty, if he saw something, he'd shove the dummy half out of the way, get the ball first of all. And you do it. Sam Walker did it at the back end of last season a little bit too. I love when halves just go, get the fuck out of the way. I need the ball now.
See, and that's one thing I lost when I got given the 7 full-time, or the 6, whatever position you want to say I played at the Roosters. I sort of lost that part of me where, as a kid, as you said, it probably pissed a lot of people off. And if there's any hookers that I played with coming for the grades, I'm sorry. But I've sort of got that back now when I went to England and got that confidence back and belief in your own ability. The fact that sometimes if you watch it on TV, you probably think, what's he doing? Like, that's a dummy half's job. But the dummy half, and because I've played the position, you're in the washing machine, so to speak. You're making 40 tackles, you're up and down. You need to get your forwards over the ad line in behind the ruck. As a half, it's so easy to like what Nathan did in the semi-final against Melbourne last year when he just ran into the dummy half and picked it up and just went 25-metre cross kick, hit the winger on the chest to score. You got to be able to do both. And as you said, I think Nathan's the best at it now, whereas he plays that structured game so well, like that, not robot, but that Cooper Cronk-like methodical, I'm going to go here, here, here. I'm going to death by 1,000 cuts by these little kicks. And then he's got what I love watching Nathan do now, I don't really necessarily like playing against it, but when he he gets the two big middle forwards, Leota and Fisher Harris, and he just shows one, pretty much stops, takes off, shows the other one or hits him. He's the best at having that ball there now, hiding it behind his body, whereas that's sort of a lost art now because of the block plays and stuff. But I feel like Nathan's progression's been so good that he sort of can play like Sherwin and Prince, but he can also play like Cronk, which, I mean, in terms of like the pecking order of halfbacks, I don't know how many have been able to do both. Like Joey could do both, Thurston could do both, and then now you got Cleary that, like, how many more that can you name that can do both, you know?
Well, and the scary thing about Cleary is that he knows how to do both at 24.
I was about to say he's about 16, Nathan, as well, so he's got plenty of years left.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's insane. Anyway, we talk about this enough and people get really upset about it, so we'll let it slide. But yeah, Shifty Sherwin, one of my favourites all time. Good pick. Absolutely love him. All right, my next one. I'm still undecided which way to go here. I'm going to go with, and I personally think he's underrated. I'm keen to hear what you two think. Cooper Cronk obviously started at the Melbourne Storm. I'm not doing Cooper Cronk, but Cooper Cronk started at the Melbourne Storm. I think he came in the 05 season, I think it was, and people forget the halfback before him.
Yeah, I know you're going to say
yeah. Same.
Matty Orford. Similar to Brent Sherwin. Just never got to play State of Origin because of so many star halfbacks. But, mate, I thought the Ox was incredible. Tough, obviously, his nickname. Yeah. Tough as nails, the Ox. He's at the Melbourne Storm, went to the Manly Seagulls, and the 2008 season, when you consider some of the halves running around that season, he won the Dalian medal that year and then captained that side to a 40-0 drumming of a Melbourne Storm team that was cheating.
Yep.
He was an absolute master at his craft, Matty Orford.
He didn't get the Clive either, did he? Brent Kite got it, didn't he?
Yeah, I still, respectfully to Brent Kite, I don't know how on earth in a 40-0 jumping a front row forward.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I thought Orford was sensational.
Yeah, I do as well. And I think like the mark of a good player, like what you just said, sorry to cut you off, mate, when you're coming up against people like Cronk, Slater, Smith, like the team that Melbourne had, it's so easy to get, regardless if players want to say it or not, when you're coming up against an elite, well-known, all-time great player, it's hard not to give him that respect or feel a little bit overawed in the sense that I don't know what this guy's got in his kit bag or what he can bring out on the big stage. And for him to do that against those three in particular, and you got to remember the supporting cast at Melbourne weren't bad either, I think it shows the mark of the man. And like Manly have had so many good halfbacks. Obviously, Cherry's been there for, how long's Ches played for? 12, 13 years?
Yeah, he's been there since 2011.
So, and then like you had Jeff Tuvey before that. Like, I mean, so he probably gets lost a little bit in terms of he played in between them two, but I think he was so unbelievably tough. Like, in terms of toughest halfbacks, Manly, obviously I just named two of them, like he's pound for pound probably up there with one of the toughest to play.
I think he's one of those guys, you know, we all talk about that Manly side and how good they were from that 07 to 11, but his name never gets thrown around. It's always the Stewarts, the Lions, the Mad Eyes, these sort of guys, which is fair enough, all classy, fantastic players. And then Ches and Foz come along, and it's like I feel like Orford is one of the more forgotten guys in rugby league history because he's the guy before Cooper Cronk, and then he's the guy before Ches and all these guys come in. So people sort of forget about him. Just on that 2008 grand final, I think it would have been an unreal moment for Orford. And as I said, I think he's the forgotten man because he was the guy before Cooper Cronk. You know who captained Melbourne that day? Remember Cameron Smith was out. He was suspended.
Oh, yeah, he was too. This is a trick question.
I've kind of given you the answer, so don't outthink the room here.
Matt Orford. No, he played against him.
So it was Cooper Cronk was the captain that day.
Oh, right, sorry.
So I reckon it'd be something that Orford would look back in his career and sort of go, got to one up that day.
Yeah, for
against the cheating Melbourne Storm side. So unlike, you know, he was a cracking goal kicker as well, Matty Orford.
Oh, yeah, he was too, yeah.
Now, I'm not sure. There was towards the back end of his career as Brett Stewart started to come on, those two had a combination that was close to unmatched.
Yeah.
Those two are incredible. There's that try, I think it's at Leichhardt Oval. He puts like a midfield banana kick bomb back
straight
to
up
the
in
middle,
that.
just sits on its belly, And Snake comes through and gets it. They had another one where a couple of flick passes he threw around his back to Snake, and some unbelievable moments. I think Matty Orford, incredibly unlucky to never play Origin. Matty?
Just on, if we go straight back, like right back to the start of his career, you say he got a little one up on Cooper Cronk. He got a little one up on Brett Morley as well, because he came through the North grades And Breckin Morley, everyone forgets, played 1 year at the Northern Eagles in 2001. Yeah. And that's the reason Orford left Norths, Manly, blah, blah, blah. And then he went to Melbourne. Breckin Morley had a great career, but like obviously that year wasn't great for anyone at the Northern Eagles. And then Matt Orford steps in, he becomes the halfback and breaks a bunch of point scoring records. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting story about how he got to Melbourne as well.
Now, he played for 3 NRL clubs. 4, sorry. Oh, 4, 3 if you want to count Northern Eagles, and Manly is the same thing. I'll offend everyone out there. Who was the other club he played for? Do you know it, Matty?
I do, because I for some reason I have this in my head ingrained forever.
This will test your how much of a rugby league nerd you are. He finished his career at a different club.
So he played for Melbourne. He played for Manly. So he played for 3 clubs?
Yeah, so he started at Northern Eagles, then he went to Melbourne, then he went to Manly, and then did he go over to the Super League? Super League.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who did he play for there?
Bradford.
Yep.
Oh, did he?
Played for Bradford in 2010, then he came back to the NRL. He only played 6 games, and respectfully to Matty, it was a pretty bang average 6 games. I think he was carrying an injury and stuff.
Was it New South Wales or Queensland?
New South Wales team. Well,
technically.
Yeah,
well, now it's given it away.
Team, I guess. Don't know how good your geography is.
Yeah, I do. I actually do remember that. What year was that?
2011.
Was that when Campo was the man at the Raiders, or was that before?
I mean, it was
around the same.
It was around the same time. Yeah,
he played 5 games.
Campo killed it a little earlier than that.
So who was the half? Who was the actual? Who took over, or who was the half at the Raiders that year? It wasn't. Who's the fellow that ran on and protested the other day?
What's his name? Josh McCrone was his halves partner that year.
Oh yeah.
And then Sammy Williams came in later in the season.
Yeah. But he only played 6 games that year. Like he didn't play the whole season.
It wasn't overly pretty. Not what we remember the great Ox for though. Yeah. I think it's 2008, the real cherry on top there. Now